There is a moment that destroys more lives than failure ever will. It is not the moment you lose money, not the moment someone betrays you, not even the moment life humiliates you in public. It is the moment right before you speak. That one moment, that one sentence, that one emotional reaction you can never take back. A person can spend 10 years building respect and lose it in 10 seconds of uncontrolled words. A family can be wounded by one angry outburst. A friendship can die from one sentence said only to win a moment. A strong man can look weak. A wise woman can look careless. A calm soul can become a prisoner of regret. And the strangest part is this: most people do not suffer because life was cruel. They suffer because in the heat of the moment, they gave their mouth permission before they gave their mind time. Marcus Aurelius understood this. Imagine the weight he carried. An emperor, war at the borders, disease in the empire, betrayal in politics, pressure from every side, noise, endless noise. And yet in the middle of all that chaos, he kept returning to one discipline over and over again. Control yourself. Rule yourself. Do not let the outside world enter your mind and start commanding your tongue. Because power is not shouting. Power is not proving. Power is not always responding. Sometimes power is silence. Not the silence of fear. Not the silence of weakness. Not the silence of someone who has nothing to say. I'm talking about the silence of someone who has mastered themselves. The silence of someone who knows that not every insult deserves a reply. Not every opinion deserves a defense. Not every battle deserves a soldier. And not every emotion deserves a microphone. Today, we're going deep into 9 situations where silence becomes a weapon, a shield, and a sign of inner greatness. And stay with me until the end, because the 9th situation is the hardest of all. It is the moment that exposes whether you truly control your mind, or whether your ego still controls you. Because anyone can be calm in peace. Anyone can sound wise when nothing is being tested. But when pride is wounded, when anger rises, when you want to be understood, when you want to fight back, when you want the last word, that is where character is revealed. So breathe, slow your mind down, and listen carefully, because these 9 moments might save you from years of regret. 1. Be silent when anger takes the wheel. Picture this. You've had a long day. Your mind is already tired. Your patience is thin. Then someone says the wrong thing at the wrong time. Maybe it's a text message. Short, cold, disrespectful. Maybe it's a comment in front of other people. A little humiliation. A little sting. Maybe it's someone acting like your pain means nothing. And suddenly you feel it. The heat. The pressure in your chest. The rush of words lining up behind your teeth. In that moment, anger lies to you. It tells you that speaking now will make you strong. It tells you that immediate reaction is honesty. It tells you that if you don't answer now, you're weak. That if you don't explode, you're losing. But anger is one of the worst advisors a human being can follow. Because anger does not want truth. It wants release. It wants to throw pain outward. It wants to make someone else feel what you are feeling. It wants satisfaction now, even if the price is regret later. This is why so many people ruin things they actually care about. They don't destroy them slowly. They destroy them emotionally. One argument, one message, one call, one public reaction. And afterward, when the storm passes, reality enters the room. Now the words are sitting there, cold, permanent. And the person who spoke them is left saying, "That's not what I meant." But it was what you allowed. A Stoic understands something most people never learn. Anger is temporary, but consequences are stubborn. So when anger rises, silence is not surrender. Silence is strategy. When your mind is inflamed, your tongue becomes dangerous. And the strongest move is not expression. The strongest move is delay. Walk, breathe, wait, drink water, look at the sky, leave the room if you have to, but do not let a passing fire decide a lasting action. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to return to self-command again and again. Not because he never felt anger, but because he knew feeling something and obeying it are not the same thing. That's the real lesson. You are allowed to feel anger. You are not required to serve it. There's a big difference. A weak person says, "I was angry, so I said it." A disciplined person says, "I was angry, so I stayed quiet until I could speak with honor." And that silence can save marriages. It can save friendships. It can save careers. It can save your dignity. Because once you learn to be silent in anger, you stop becoming a puppet for every emotional trigger life throws at you. And here is the deeper truth. The person who angers you can only control part of the situation. The rest is up to you. They may light the match, but you decide whether there will be a fire. So the next time rage starts rising inside you, remember this. You do not have to answer while your soul is burning. You do not have to defend yourself in the language of emotion. You do not have to become ugly just because the moment is ugly. Be still, let the wave pass, then speak only if wisdom remains. Because in the first battle of silence, the enemy is not the other person. It is the version of you that wants relief more than virtue. 2. Be silent when someone is trying to provoke you. Now, anger is one thing, but provocation is more calculated. Anger can happen naturally. Provocation is often intentional. Some people do not want conversation. They want control. They poke. They mock. They interrupt. They disrespect. Not because they are searching for truth, but because they are hunting for a reaction. And the moment you react the way they hoped you would, you lose the advantage. This happens everywhere. At work, where someone subtly tries to embarrass you in a meeting. Online, where strangers throw insults from behind screens. In families, where one person knows exactly which old wound to touch. In relationships, where silence is used to bait a confession or guilt. In public, where people perform strength by trying to pull you into chaos. And most people take the bait. Why? Because the ego hates being challenged. The ego hears disrespect and immediately says, "Say something, show them, make them regret it." But the Stoic mind asks a better question. Why should I let another person choose my state of mind? Think about that. If someone can provoke you on command, then your peace was never really yours. It was just on loan until the right fool came along. That's why silence becomes such a terrifying form of strength. A person expecting your explosion doesn't know what to do with your calm. A person trying to drag you down becomes confused when you refuse to climb into the mud. And no, this does not mean becoming passive. It means becoming untouchable. There is a difference. A passive person stays silent because they are afraid. A disciplined person stays silent because they see the trap. That's power. Imagine a man in a room full of loud people. Everyone is trying to win. Everyone is interrupting. Everyone is desperate to be seen as right. And one person sits there completely unshaken. He listens. He watches. He does not give his emotions away for free. Who looks stronger? The loudest one, or the one who clearly does not need the noise? People reveal themselves when they try to provoke you. They show you their insecurity, their hunger, their instability, their need for domination. And if you are wise, you let them reveal it. Because silence lets the mask fall. When you stop reacting, you start seeing. You see who needs conflict to feel important. You see who cannot stand emotional control in another person. You see who wants your attention more than your respect. And once you see that clearly, why would you reward it with a reaction? Not every barking dog requires you to bark back. Not every clown deserves a stage. Not every challenge is honorable enough to accept. Sometimes the highest form of intelligence is refusing to turn nonsense into an event. And here is something even more powerful. Your silence does not only protect your peace, it forces the other person to face themselves. When you don't react, their performance has nowhere to land. Their manipulation becomes visible. Their aggression loses oxygen. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember, they may be throwing a hook, but you do not have to bite. They may be offering you a role in their chaos, but you do not have to audition. They may want your reaction more than your respect. Do not give them either. Give them silence. And let your composure say what words never could. I saw the trap, and I am too disciplined to enter it. 3. Be silent when you are desperate to explain yourself. This one hurts, because most people do not chase explanations out of logic. They chase them out of pain. To be misunderstood is painful. To be judged unfairly is painful. To know your heart was different from how you were perceived, that hurts deeply. And because it hurts, the mind panics. It says, no, wait, let me explain. Let me clarify. Let me make them see who I really am. If I just say this one perfect thing, maybe they'll finally understand. But here is one of life's hardest lessons. Not everyone is committed to understanding you. Some people have already chosen a version of you that fits their story. And your explanations do not change their mind. They only drain your energy. This is where silence becomes a form of self-respect. Because there is a difference between clarifying once and begging to be seen correctly. A lot of people spend years exhausted because they are constantly managing other people's perceptions. Trying to correct every rumor, trying to answer every assumption, trying to defend every decision, trying to make sure everyone knows their side. And in the process, they lose themselves. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this idea. Focus on your own conduct. Focus on what is yours. Do what is just. Do what is right. And let the noise outside remain outside. That is not coldness. That is freedom. If you know your intention was clean, if your actions remain honorable, if your conscience is not accusing you, then there are moments when silence is wiser than self-defense. Because overexplaining often comes from fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being disliked. Fear of not controlling the narrative. But the mature soul understands something beautiful. The truth does not become more true because everyone approves of it. You do not need universal understanding to live with dignity. Sometimes a person will misunderstand you because they only listened through the filter of their own pain. Sometimes they will twist your words because they need you to be the villain. Sometimes they are not searching for truth at all. They are searching for confirmation. And if that is what they want, no amount of explanation will satisfy them. So what do? You stop auditioning for acceptance. You stop writing speeches in your head for people who already closed the door. You stop chasing emotional closure from people who benefit from misunderstanding you. You let your life speak longer than your defense ever could. That takes strength, because silence in this moment feels unbearable. It feels like losing. It feels like being erased. But often, what feels like losing is actually the death of your dependency on other people's approval. And that is not a loss. That is a rebirth. Explain yourself where love exists. Clarify where honesty exists. Speak where mutual respect exists. But where there is only judgment, ego, and appetite for drama, silence is often the nobler path. Let people think what they want for a while. Time has a way of exposing what frantic words never could. Character leaves a longer echo than explanation. So if you are tired from trying to make everyone understand you, hear this carefully. Not everyone deserves access to your full inner world. Not everyone deserves a detailed defense. And not every false image of you requires correction. Be still. The people who truly matter will read your life more carefully than your speech. And the people who don't were never your audience to begin with. 4. Be silent about your big plans before they are built. There is a strange trap hidden inside ambition. It feels good to talk, to announce the new beginning, to tell people about the business, the book, the transformation, the move, the vision, the comeback. To say, this time everything is changing. And in that moment, talking can feel like progress. But often it is counterfeit progress. Because the ego loves the reward of being seen as serious before doing the serious work. This is why so many dreams die early. They are overexposed. The person starts a new path, then tells 10 people. They receive praise, admiration, validation. Wow, that's amazing. That's big. You're going to do incredible things. And the mind, foolishly, starts enjoying the social reward before the private discipline has even begun. Then the hard mornings come. The lonely repetitions. The doubt. The boredom. The lack of results. The invisible phase where no one is clapping. And suddenly the dream loses energy. Because it was fed too much attention and not enough action. Silence protects early growth. A seed does not become stronger because it is dug up every day and shown to strangers. It becomes stronger because it stays rooted in darkness long enough to build. That is how serious people move. Quietly, deliberately, without needing the world to witness every stage. There is also another danger in speaking too soon. Other people's fear. The moment you share a vision, you invite opinions. Some will project their limits onto you. Some will smile, then secretly hope you fail. Some will plant doubt so casually, you won't even notice it entering your mind. Not because your dream is impossible, but because your dream exposes the life they did not have the courage to pursue. So why hand your fragile beginning to unqualified voices? Build first, announce later. Let the work become your statement. A Stoic does not need to perform intention. They respect the sacredness of action. This does not mean you can never share your goals. It means you must learn discernment. Speak to mentors. Speak to people who build. Speak where wisdom can strengthen the mission. But do not scatter your future into rooms full of distraction, envy, and empty praise. The world is full of people who love the sound of plans. But life only changes for those who can endure the silence of execution. And execution is not glamorous. It is waking up when you don't feel like it. It is consistency without applause. It is discipline when the excitement is gone. It is showing up when no one knows what you're building. That is where lives are transformed. Not in the announcement, in the repetition. So if you are carrying a dream right now, protect it. You do not have to post it. You do not have to explain it. You do not have to make everyone comfortable with it. Go quiet. Go to work. Let them hear about it from the results. Because some chapters become weaker when spoken too early. And some destinies grow best in silence. 5. Be silent when gossip enters the room. Listen closely. Very few things make a soul heavier than a mouth that is always full of other people. Gossip is one of the most socially accepted forms of weakness. It hides behind entertainment. It disguises itself as concern. It enters the room like harmless conversation. Did you hear what happened? I probably shouldn't say this, but don't tell anyone I told you. And just like that, a person's absence becomes your evening's amusement. Most people join in because it feels easy. It creates instant bonding. It gives the ego a cheap feeling of superiority. As long as someone else is being dissected, you get to feel temporarily above them. But the Stoic mind sees something uglier happening. Every time you enjoy another person's fall, you train your character downward. Every time you spread what is not yours to spread, you weaken trust. Every time you participate in tearing someone apart while they are not present to speak, you quietly become smaller. And the worst part, people who gossip with you will gossip about you. Always. A mouth without discipline does not suddenly become loyal in your absence. This is why silence in moments of gossip is not awkward. It is cleansing. You do not have to join every conversation just because it is available. You do not have to laugh at every humiliation. You do not have to contribute your own little piece of poison to the bowl. Sometimes the most dignified presence in the room is the person who simply refuses to feed on another human being. That kind of silence changes things. It makes people aware of themselves. It interrupts the rhythm of ugliness. It reminds the room that not everyone is for sale socially. And if they call you boring for it, good. Better boring than dishonorable. Better quiet than corrupt. Better excluded from shallow people than included in conversations that rot your character. Marcus Aurelius constantly pushed himself toward what was just, useful, and aligned with virtue. Gossip is none of those things. It wastes time. It pollutes the mind. It lowers speech from something meaningful into something hungry and cheap. Ask yourself this: how much of your energy has been lost by paying attention to who did what, who said what, who failed, who cheated, who embarrassed themselves, who is falling apart? And now ask a better question. What could your mind have built if it had not been cluttered with other people's private chaos? Silence becomes sacred here, because silence protects the tongue from sinning in small ways that later shape a whole personality. Not every corruption begins with a scandal. Some begin with a smirk, a little whisper, a sentence you knew you didn't need to say. So when gossip enters the room, let your silence become a wall. If you can redirect the conversation, do it. If you can say something kind, say it. If wisdom calls for words, use them carefully. But if the room is committed to feeding on someone else's absence, then keep your dignity. Protect your mind. Protect your speech. Because a clean conscience is worth more than social belonging. And a disciplined tongue is one of the clearest signs of a disciplined soul. 6. Be silent when you do not fully know. There is a kind of insecurity that talks too much. It speaks quickly. It speaks confidently. It fills silence with opinions. It cannot say, "I don't know." Why? Because ignorance feels embarrassing to the ego. So instead of admitting uncertainty, people perform certainty. They talk beyond their knowledge. They argue beyond their understanding. They repeat half-truths with full conviction. And the world rewards it far too often. But wisdom is different. Wisdom is not loud. Wisdom is precise. Wisdom knows the boundary between what is clear and what is not. A truly intelligent person is not afraid of silence. They are afraid of speaking falsely. That is why one of the most powerful sentences you can ever learn is this: "I don't know enough yet." That sentence can save you from embarrassment. from arrogance, from bad decisions, from misjudging people, from damaging trust. Because once words leave your mouth, they begin shaping how others see your judgment. And more importantly, they shape how you train your own mind. Every careless opinion makes the mind more careless. Every exaggerated claim makes the character more dishonest. Every fake certainty moves you further from truth. The Stoic path is deeply tied to reality. See clearly, judge carefully, do not add imagination where knowledge is missing. And that requires silence, especially today, when everyone feels pressure to instantly have a position on everything. Every topic, every controversy, every rumor, every event, every person's life. People hear one fragment and speak like witnesses. They read one headline and speak like experts. They feel one emotion and speak like judges. But disciplined people pause. They listen longer. They ask better questions. They resist the vanity of immediate conclusions. That restraint is rare. And because it is rare, it is powerful. There is a quiet confidence in someone who does not need to sound informed all the time. Someone who can sit in a conversation, absorb, observe, think, and then speak only when their words have weight. That kind of person is trusted because their speech is not random. It is earned. So the next time you feel tempted to jump in just to avoid looking uninvolved, be careful. You do not gain respect by having an opinion on everything. You gain respect by showing judgment. Silence is not ignorance. Sometimes silence is evidence that you respect truth too much to pretend. And there is another layer to this. When you stop rushing to speak, you start learning faster. You notice details. You catch contradictions. You hear what other people reveal unintentionally. You leave room for reality to teach you. Talking all the time blocks instruction. Silence creates space for understanding. So protect that space. Do not be ashamed of carefulness. Do not be ashamed of not knowing yet. Do not let the hunger to appear smart make you careless with truth. A fool speaks to be noticed. A wise person speaks when what they say deserves to remain. Until then, silence is not emptiness. It is discipline in service of reality. 7. Be silent with people committed to misunderstanding everything. Now this one is painful in a different way. Because sometimes you are not dealing with ignorance. You are dealing with resistance. There are people who do not want clarity. They want conflict. They do not want understanding. They want victory. They do not listen to learn. They listen to reload. You can feel it in the conversation. Every word you say gets twisted. Every explanation becomes a new accusation. Every calm answer is met with another louder distortion. You are not in a dialogue anymore. You are in a psychological trap. And the temptation is to keep trying. Maybe if I say it more clearly. Maybe if I stay longer. Maybe if I make one more point. Maybe if I finally destroy their argument, they'll stop. But some people are not arguing because they are confused. They are arguing because chaos gives them energy. And if you are not careful, you will spend hours of your life trying to open a door that is locked from the inside. This is where silence becomes self-protection. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you finally realize your words are being wasted. There is no virtue in endlessly debating people who are emotionally invested in distortion. There is no honor in collapsing your nervous system to prove something to someone who refuses to be honest. At some point, silence is not avoidance. It is discernment. Marcus Aurelius lived among political games, flattery, betrayal, and egos. He understood that much of human behavior is driven by blindness, insecurity, and inner disorder. His answer was not to control everyone else. His answer was to govern himself. That includes knowing when a conversation has stopped being useful. Not every open mouth deserves your argument. Not every opinion deserves your energy. Not every critic deserves full access to your intellect. There are people who leave every conversation more confused, more agitated, and more entrenched than before. You are not obligated to become their emotional servant. Walk away, quietly if possible, firmly if necessary, without hatred, without drama, without a final performance. Just leave. Some battles are expensive not because they are difficult, but because they are pointless. And pointless conflict is one of the greatest thieves of peace. Think about how much life gets lost there. The hours replaying the argument in your head. The imaginary comebacks. The emotional exhaustion. The distraction from your real work, your real people, your real purpose. All because someone with no sincerity managed to pull you into a maze. No more. Let confused people be confused if they insist on it. Let dishonest people argue with their own reflection. Let emotional chaos echo in a room you chose to leave. You do not have to stay available to nonsense. Silence here is a boundary. It says, I will not spend my life explaining reality to someone committed to illusion. And that boundary is holy, because peace is not something you find by accident. Peace is something you protect by refusing certain invitations. 8. Be silent in suffering until your pain becomes wisdom, not performance. This one must be understood carefully. Silence in suffering does not mean never asking for help. It does not mean isolating yourself. It does not mean pretending everything is fine while you are breaking inside. Real strength knows when to seek counsel, support, therapy, healing, and truth. But there is another kind of suffering that the modern world encourages. Performed suffering. Pain turned into identity. Wounds turned into theater. Hardship turned into a constant announcement. And when that happens, something dangerous begins. Instead of healing, the person starts narrating themselves into permanence. Instead of moving through pain, they build a home inside it. Instead of carrying sorrow with dignity, they begin displaying it in every room, every conversation, every moment. The ego can even hide inside hurt. It can say, look at what happened to me. See how unfair life has been. Recognize my pain. Validate my wound. And slowly, the wound becomes a personality. The Stoic path asks for something harder and more beautiful. Feel deeply, but do not worship your pain. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to ache. You are allowed to sit with sorrow and admit that life has cut you. But be careful not to let your suffering start speaking louder than your soul. Some pain needs privacy before it can become wisdom. Some wounds need silence before they can form language that is honest rather than theatrical. Have you noticed this? The deepest people are not usually the ones making the most noise about their scars. They are often the ones who went inward, faced the darkness honestly, and came back with gentleness instead of spectacle. That is sacred work. To sit alone with your suffering. To resist the temptation to turn every hurt into a display. To ask, what is this pain trying to teach me? What is it refining in me? What must die here so something stronger can live? That kind of silence transforms a person. It burns away vanity. It strips illusion. It teaches compassion. It reveals what matters. It creates depth. And yes, speak when help is needed. Speak when truth must be named. Speak when silence would become self-destruction. But outside of that, be cautious. Not every emotion needs to be published. Not every wound needs an audience. Not every hard season should become your whole identity. Because life is always listening to the story you repeat about yourself. If you constantly declare yourself broken, eventually your spirit starts believing it. If you constantly frame yourself as a victim, your courage begins shrinking to fit the story. So protect your inner language. Suffer honestly, heal intentionally, and let silence mature your pain into something worthy. Let it become strength. Let it become clarity. Let it become compassion for others. Let it become a cleaner relationship with life. The strongest people are not those who never hurt. They are those who refuse to make pain their throne. They carry it. They learn from it. They bow before reality. And then, little by little, they rise. Not louder, wiser. 9. Be silent when your ego wants the last word. This is the hardest one, because it appears in moments when you are absolutely certain you should speak. You've made your point. You've answered clearly. You've been fair, but the other person still has one more jab, one more insult, one more smug line, one more attempt to leave the scene looking superior. And now your ego wakes up. It says, no, not like that. You can't let them think they won. Finish this. Say the thing that crushes them. Take back control of how this ends. And that impulse has ruined countless people. Because the need for the last word is rarely about truth. It is about image. It is the ego's desperate effort to avoid feeling small for even a second. But here is what mature strength understands. You do not need the last word if you have the last level of self-control. Read that again in your mind. You do not need the last word if you have the last level of self-control. There is something almost royal about a person who can stop, who can let the moment end without squeezing one more sentence out of wounded pride, who can walk away while still being misunderstood, still being challenged, still not fully vindicated in public, and remain whole inside. That person is free, because the need for the final response is a form of dependence. It means your peace still depends on controlling the ending. But life will not always give you that ending. Sometimes you will be misquoted. Sometimes you will be judged unfairly. Sometimes a fool will believe they outsmarted you. Sometimes someone will walk away feeling victorious in a battle that was beneath you from the start. Let them. If truth is on your side, time is often enough. If character is on your side, life will speak. If discipline is on your side, you do not need to perform superiority. The craving for the last word comes from insecurity disguised as strength. Real strength can leave a sentence unfinished. Real strength can leave a room without applause. Real strength can tolerate the temporary discomfort of not looking dominant. Because dominance is cheap. Composure is rare. Think about how many arguments continue only because neither side can bear to stop talking. Not because clarity is missing. Not because truth is hidden. But because both egos are starving for the emotional dessert of winning. And what is usually won? Nothing. Only more damage. More resentment. More distance. More regret. This is why the final test of silence is so difficult. It asks you to choose inner command over outer appearance. It asks you to let go of being seen as the winner. It asks you to trust that your dignity does not depend on one more line. And once you learn that, something extraordinary happens. You become difficult to disturb, difficult to manipulate, difficult to bait, difficult to drain, because you are no longer available for battles of vanity. You speak when necessary. You withdraw when wisdom demands it. And when your ego starts begging for one final sentence, you smile inwardly and say, "No, I don't need it. That is not weakness. That is mastery. So here they are. 9 moments where silence becomes more powerful than speech. Be silent when anger takes the wheel. Be silent when someone is trying to provoke you. Be silent when you are desperate to explain yourself. Be silent about big plans before they are built. Be silent when gossip enters the room. Be silent when you do not fully know. Be silent with people committed to misunderstanding everything. Be silent in suffering until pain becomes wisdom, not performance. And be silent when your ego wants the last word. If you really absorb these, your life changes. Not because you become cold. Not because you become passive. Not because you stop speaking. But because your words stop being cheap. They stop being emotional leakage. They stop being ego defense. They stop being reflex. And they become deliberate, measured, clean, powerful. That is what the Stoics understood. A human being is not ruined by feeling. A human being is ruined by becoming a servant to every feeling. Silence trains the space between impulse and action. And in that space, freedom is born. That space is where dignity lives. That space is where wisdom enters. That space is where character is formed. Anyone can speak. Anyone can react. Anyone can be loud, immediate, dramatic, and emotionally available to every passing offense. But the person who can remain silent at the right moment, that person becomes formidable, because they are no longer ruled from the outside. An insult comes, and they do not collapse. A misunderstanding comes, and they do not beg. A provocation comes, and they do not dance. A pain comes, and they do not make a throne out of suffering. An argument comes, and they do not sell their peace for one more sentence. They remain their own. And maybe that is the real point. Silence is not just about what you do with your mouth. It is about what you protect in your soul. Your peace, your judgment, your dignity, your power to choose. The world will keep getting louder. People will keep talking carelessly. Egos will keep colliding. Noise will keep asking for your participation. You do not have to answer every call. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let the world be noisy while you remain governed within. So the next time life tests you, pause. Before the text, before the comeback, before the explanation, before the emotional confession, before the argument stretches one sentence too far. Pause and ask yourself, will these words make me stronger or only lighter for a moment and heavier afterward? If the answer is regret, choose silence. If the answer is ego, choose silence. If the answer is vanity, choose silence. If the answer is impulse pretending to be truth, choose silence. Because not every moment is asking for your voice. Some moments are asking for your discipline. And if you can master that, if you can hold your peace while others lose themselves, if you can keep your dignity when the room is full of bait, if you can stay quiet long enough for wisdom to catch up with emotion, then you are becoming dangerous in the best possible way. Calm, clear, unshaken, untouchable, not because the world got easier, but because you finally stopped giving every moment the power to command you. And that is a kind of freedom very few people ever reach. So guard your words, guard your reactions, guard your inner throne. And when life asks who rules your mind, let your silence answer,